What's happening? Benton here. I went live 1 minute late. Will they ever forgive me? Well, first day off the THCO. Yep, I finally vaped all the vapes. That's what the thumbnail is. That's 8. As close to empty as I was comfortable getting, because I mean, who even knows what I would be inhaling if I just hit those things until they would not hit any longer, right? Although, who knows? Maybe I'll do that later today. I hope not. I'd like to think this is all behind me. Hey, what's up, Big Drink T? Been thinking about you, sir. Sometimes when I don't see certain names for a while, I'm thinking, where is Big Drink T? Good to see you, man. Living his best life as always. What's up, Gary? Yeah, I'm feeling like a dawn of a new day in some ways. Now that I think my self-imposed isolation is now over. It seems that way. Hard to be sure, but yeah. Which is funny because I thought I had one entire vape left. I thought I had a full, because I had like 8 of these things. I had 9 actually and gave one away, but it turned out the last one, what I thought would have lasted me most of the weekend, even as much as I was abusing, the synthetic cannabinoids. But it was like almost, it wasn't almost out, but it had definitely been used up. More than half of it was already gone. Let's just put it that way. I was like, oh man. So I just got as baked as I could last night, and it's funny for anybody that's abused, and I do use the word abuse just for me. High levels of use. It may not be abuse for other people, but I certainly have ingested high amounts of cannabis at times, and cannabinoids, concentrates and dabs and edibles and all this stuff. And man, after an extended period of time, I actually start to, it's almost like when I wake up and I'm, I've been asleep for long enough that I'm now completely not under the effect of cannabis anymore. It's like, man, that's the feeling I want. The feeling of not sober, but just, unaltered. But as we know, cannabis is wonderful in many regards. So not shit talking the cannabis, certainly. What's up, everybody? Good to see y'all. Good morning, Music Holds a Secret. What's happening, everybody? I saw Illumitommy's over on the Bex Factor. Shout out to 14 in the house, by the way. I don't know what happened, but I don't know anything about that Divine Spirit, but I've been out of the loop on a lot of stuff, so. If it's involving Jackie, I'm sure she seems to have good judgment and all that, so. Yeah. So did I get blocked? I don't know. I don't know what happened, Divine Spirit, but good to see you. Indeed. What's up, Roy? Damn, we even got obscenity in here. Hell yeah. I think I got to start making these thumbnails the day before, like I did, make the schedule the live like today for tomorrow. Starting to see some people rolling in right at 3. Cool. At least just to check in, right? And if y'all want to go check out Tommy over on the Bex Factor, I won't be offended. Actually, that's part of the reason I was 1 minute late. I was over in the live chat and I posted in the chat and I was like, wait a minute. I think I'm going live. Oh, that's right. Probably how to do my broadcast. We're just hanging out though. Just hanging out. Oh, going the wrong way. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that YouTube's weird with that kind of stuff too, Divine Spirit. It just seems like sometimes it just sort of me and Robin had a thing where it was like YouTube was blocking. Like I couldn't see her comments and she couldn't see mine, and like neither one of us had the other one on our block list. And you know, for whatever reason, I think she's not a fan of mine anymore. It seems, but which is that's. I mean, I'm sure I did something. I don't know. I'm so outspoken sometimes. I just shoot my mouth off. But the point I'm getting at is that like I was just convinced she had me blocked, and she kept saying no, she doesn't have me blocked, and eventually I figured out, oh, I don't think she has me blocked. It's just for whatever reason YouTube won't let us see each other's comments. So there's weird stuff like that happens sometimes too. Okay, cool. Well, all right, good deal. Yeah, I don't know what I did. Sometimes I wonder what's going on with that when certain people seem to respond to me. But yeah, as a content creator, there's content creators I respond to. And I like what Jackie's doing. I realize a lot of it's, specifically for females, but I'm interested in some of those topics, so I think that probably helped. Well, most of the topics, actually. I'm not a big tarot guy, me personally, but I don't shit on it either. But just a lot of the chakra talk and just the the stuff that people are into tarot or into, right? I'm interested in a lot of those things. Why can't I talk today? Here's the car hauler out here waiting to get unloaded at the car dealership, I guess. Yeah. Was this last night? Because I was asleep. But yeah, I should have been there, but I think probably between the THCO and the my early bedtime, I was probably asleep. I remember when she scheduled that live thinking, well, I'd like to see that, but I don't think I'm going to be awake. If that's the one I'm thinking of. Oh, really? Okay, I might have to go. Oh, talking about the doctors and prescriptions. Now that I would definitely like to check out. For sure. I love yeah, now I'm feeling kind of bad. I should have been there. Damn it. Oh, well, shit. Now that I'm off the cannabis, maybe I can stay up a little later. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for filling me in there, Divine Spirit. And then listening to Tommy talk about some of the financial system stuff was interesting. And then sometimes I just like type comments off the top of my head into this live chat. And, I don't think this is Bex's fault because I've noticed other people do this. Sometimes people just they don't pre-read my comments. Like, because some of my live chats I understand are pretty insightful at times, right? Like informative and insightful, but then some of them are just complete fucking nothing burgers. And it's like, they don't pre-read it sometimes. The next thing I know, it's on the screen and I can tell they're cold reading it, and it's not interesting. I'm like, oh man, but they're reading it like it's going to be interesting. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? I'm like, please pre-read they're not all great. Don't just automatically go to my comment. Some of them stink. Oh, alcohol and man, yeah, the alcohol, yeah. I think there could be more of that talk could be very helpful for people because, obviously looking at just how many folks are in super bad shape with alcohol and prescription drugs. And that's something I figured out, especially living in the streets with nothing, in my travels. And, I would regularly meet people who would, become somewhat enamored with my personality or whatever. And, some of them would let me back before I realized it was a bad idea to go to people's houses anyway, for me rather, not for any reason other than just people are trying, I don't even want to get into it, but I mean, we can. But the point I'm trying to make is that, God, did I sidetrack myself already? Shit. I'm working on this though. I'm working around the lack of the short-term memory. So I will come up with some strategies to keep the show on the road. Damn it. What the fuck was I talking about? Believable. Oh, the alcohol and the pills. And a lot of these folks, they were, you could tell they were good-hearted people, at least on some level, not just complete scumbags. And they, probably a lot of them sensitive and good-hearted people, but just the the pills and the alcohol, and hardly anybody was just on pills too. It's like, and specifically, I'm talking about these kind of people I would meet. It seemed like disproportionately, not all, it wasn't all, but it seemed like a disproportionate number were on alcohol and a bunch of meds. And then, but then the person invariably, they think they're taking, they don't view themselves as substance abusers because they think they're, well, the doctor gave me all these meds and I'm taking them as prescribed. And, you know, a couple of times I pointed out, I was like, no, you're not. It says right there on the bottle, you can't have alcohol with this. You're not taking it as directed. Not you, them, sorry. You know, but the things that people, you know, trick themselves into believing. Uh-oh, here's Mitch Lovin. Yeah. Here's Mitchell. Yeah, I love it. I don't know, Mitchell. It's just, you know, I read 3 words of your, and I missed the first one. I see coward there, but, you know, I read 3 letters and it's like I already know exactly where you're going, right? So, I mean, honestly, at this point, Mitchell, I could just run a script in my head of how you will react to pretty much everything that I do, right? So, what are you doing? Because, I mean, clearly whatever you're doing, Mitchell, that has something to do with you. It can't have anything to do with Benton. Because let's face the reality that there's like supposedly billions of people in the realm. And yeah, some of them are better people than me. Like some of them are morally superior to me. Some of them, you know, behave less incorrectly. But the fact is, I'm still better than a high percentage of all of these motherfuckers, Mitchell. So, you know, if we're going to go around and settle people's hash, maybe you could start with somebody else that maybe needs your help and your guidance a little bit. Because, you know, the reality is I'm fully fucking formed, Mitchell. Like this is, imagine somebody being this thoughtful, introspective, and still choosing to behave this way, Mitchell. Many of these folks have fallen into error and they don't really know that they've fallen into error. Like, I'm actually choosing to live this way, Mitchell. Think about it. After thinking it through thoroughly, and in spite of whatever Mitchell might say about it, right? Oh, and I'm still a moderator in one of your channels. You might want to take a look at that, Mitchell. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember which one, but I popped into one of Mitchell's live streams and I was like, oh, that's right. I'm a moderator on here. Hilarious. And now, are you mad at? And now Mitchell's mad at me because of things to do with him. This is hilarious. But and you know, it's funny because as soon as I saw him posting, I know I can go to the trying to hide people and this and that. But then it's like, hey, I'm trying to do a broadcast. Do I really want to? On my phone, you know, how much do I really want to be clicking back and forth from the StreamYard to the YouTube? I guess eventually I'll have to just have 2 phones with me. You know, but here's the thing. No, Mitchell, I'm extremely good at manipulation. If I wanted to manipulate you, I would have manipulated you, Mitchell. This would not be hard to do, man. This is super fucking easy. I think, and this is something I was talking to with Highly Suspect last night. You know, the reality is, you know, especially if you look at all these folks who get like blamed for being manipulators and this and that. Well, the thing is, the victim of all of that, you know, they play a part as well, right? So I've observed a bunch of people who, you know, because of their past or whatever they've been through, you know, they're, and it's a lot of it is pop psychology, but I have a good understanding of it. And these folks who, you know, like it's the old cliche of the woman who, you know, she goes from partner to partner to partner, and every one of them is abusive, right? You know, it's kind of the same thing, Mitchell. And the reality is, I do have some of these aspects to my personality, and people detect it, Mitchell. And you're probably one of those people, man. Like, do you not see that you are attracted to these type of personality? And I don't mean sexually, I just mean in general. Like, that's a problem, Mitchell. That's a big problem for you, not for me. I'm not attracted to those type of people. None of their bullshit works on me. But here's the catch, Mitchell, is that I many years ago, through a process of introspection, Mitchell, I detected that I'm very naturally manipulative. And I realized the error of acting on that. And I don't do it for the most part, although I will assert, Mitchell, that manipulation is the basis of almost all human interaction between people, because I'm trying to get something out of every interaction, as is everybody else. Now, they may not view it that way in their brain. They may not, especially the more people pleaser types, right? They may not view it that way, but they're still necessarily trying to get something specific out of literally every interaction. Okay. So what I would say is that if I'm going into a situation trying to get a specific result, and you are going into a situation trying to get a specific result, how can that happen without both people trying to manipulate, and which has a specific meaning, by the way, actually multiple specific meanings, without trying to manipulate. But see, we've decided that manipulate sounds bad. So we can just go around calling things manipulative. And then now that's an insult. And it's almost like, well, we've discredited the person. By the way, the person in this situation is me. So now I'm discredited because somebody used a word that everybody assumes is negative called manipulate. When in fact, if my assertion that, other than just some very specific, mother and child type of stuff. Shit, it's wet over there. Just walked into some, oh yes, people behaving strangely. That's one thing about just going out here and walking around at 3 a.m. Just people will just drive up just randomly. It's like they just see a person and they just start driving towards it. It's just bizarre. It makes no sense. These people were literally pulled in, fucking drove at me like they were going to go to the ATM. Although it's out of order. See, not everything's because of me, right? That makes sense. See, sometimes I'm just paranoid. Sometimes it's just paranoia. But that's the thing, Mitchell. Like, let's forget about Benton, because again, there's way more evil. Let's just assume I'm exactly what Mitchell says I am. Let's just go again. See, I can defeat anything you put forward, Mitchell, because let's just say you're right. So fucking what, bro? What are you getting out of this? What's your motivation? Let's just assume that you vanquish Benton and you manage to succeed, and literally nobody will have anything to do with me. And everywhere I go online, people just know not to fuck with me. Okay, what next, Mitchell? Do you just on to the next person? Is it just the whole rest of your life is going to be discrediting people who actually go and show themselves online? Is that what comes of this? I'm confused. I don't understand. Well, I know, but I know what's happening, right? I know what Mitchell's doing. It's fucking super obvious to damn near everybody but him, right? Meanwhile, I don't care. It's not my concern. If I had some kind of big broadcast and made a living doing this, you wouldn't be, we would have staff and you wouldn't be permitted, right? There would just be no Mitchell. Part of this is that Mitchell must necessarily go to the places that will have him. And let's face the reality, that's not a long list, man. And I'm not trying to put you down, bro. That's me to some extent. And then, want to talk about homelessness and all this. Well, you're living in a fucking vehicle, Mitchell, that's fine. But, you're out here finding people like me who are not in a good situation in life in many ways, who I'm more or less waking up every day and, facing very dire circumstances in some way. And then I've got Mitchell coming here to make it worse. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing a lot of stuff out here, man. What I'm not doing is regularly showing up and making shit worse for people. Just think about that, Mitchell. That's you doing that. That's not me doing that. That's not anybody but you doing that. And then, so what's going on inside of Mitchell where that's okay? And now Mitchell's dealing with his bullshit by giving me shit. And meanwhile, it's none of your fucking business, Mitchell. Let's talk about loss, injury, and harm. You can't show no loss, injury, or harm, partner. So shut the fuck up, dude. Seriously, shut the fuck up until you, based on your own beliefs that you espouse, until you can show that somebody's experienced loss, injury, or harm, until you can show that, shut the fuck up. Because you ain't got a leg to stand on, partner, based on your own code, based on your own principles. Yeah. based on you can confront whoever you want, Mitchell. You're wasting time, man. None of this it's not going to do anything for you. That's the point I'm making. The point I'm making to Mitchell is it's not going to do anything for him. That's the problem. It's not, the problem is not, what effects can we, what can we apply to Benton and then get some sort of a discrete result? Like that's not what's happening, man. And how does everybody but Mitchell see it? That's the question. So that's the fascinating part is, the being encased in whatever this is, this body, this energy sphere, but then necessarily can't view it properly, can't really see themselves properly. And that applies to me also, right? So what I've done is recognizing this, and again, show me a human, I'll show you a hypocrite. I don't practice this perfectly, but I've put a lot of time, energy, and effort into introspection and being able to view myself correctly so that if I were to run around behaving like Mitchell, that's not the problem. See, that's not a problem. The problem is if I'm running around like Mitchell and I think I'm right and I can't see why I'm doing these things. See, that's the problem for Mitchell. Is I don't think he has any fucking idea why he's behaving this way. And it's sad. It's sad. It is. It's really sad because there's no reason for it, man. The reality is we cannot escape the consequences of our actions. If I really am what Mitchell says I am, then I will be punished for that. I mean, it's literally that easy. Like I cannot escape the consequences of my so-called evil actions. I don't need to look anything up. Mitchell, you must prove that I've caused loss, injury, or harm. I don't need to look anything up. See, again, we're going to use his own game against him. And, I won't live in this world where people just deny reality. Mitchell, the fact is, it's up to you to prove the loss, injury, or harm. I don't need to look anything up. I don't, in fact, need to do anything. You must show that. You must prove that. See? Not I. Because I'm not making any now I'm giving characterizations and I'm commentary, sir. I'm providing commentary based on what I see. Okay. And then, where do people go to get their attention? See, and I understand as soon as I read his comment, I know I'm choosing to engage. And the fact is I'm choosing to reward bad behavior. Like I'm literally rewarding his bad behavior, which is something I typically don't do. Although I must say that it is somewhat interesting on some level. And then as we see with the numbers and, the broadcast and whatever, there has to be some amount of drama. So I guess we'll just thank Mitchell for coming along and providing the drama. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, really. Because, part of this is I go live. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, although I have notes some of the time. But then here's Mitchell shows up and then especially the insults around sexual preference or sexual attraction. I mean, like that doesn't seem like you, Mitchell. You don't seem like the type that like you're in your life in Arizona or wherever you are in Colorado. You don't seem like the type that gets around because I know you're meeting and running into people that lead what used to be considered alternative lifestyles, although now it's just mainstream. And I got to think that you don't view them that way. And I got to think that you don't treat them that way. But because you have some kind of an emotion that you've attached to me for some bizarre reason, now it's insult somebody on that basis. See, you don't even believe that, Mitchell. You're not. You don't seem like a person that dislikes or despises people based on who or what they may be attracted to, right? That doesn't seem like you, man. So, and we all know I very astutely, we don't know actually. And part of this is that I don't do good enough a job bragging on myself. I know it sounds crazy because I do brag on myself a lot, but I astutely noticed some dynamics between Yurt and Mitch, and I made the mistake of verbalizing those. And Mitch was particularly out of pocket back then. I don't know if y'all remember. He was really giving Yurt the business. And in fact, what Mitchell does with me is really kind of a drop in the bucket. He was really going in on Yurt. But the reality is, man, there's a ton of repressed homosexuality in these so-called truth communities. And I don't know that Mitch, I have no idea. Mitch, maybe he does like girls. Don't know, don't care, to be honest with you. Don't know, don't care. Not my concern. But, crap, lost my point again. Shit. Well, and see, this is the thing is Mitchell, I'm not wrong, Mitchell. You're experiencing excessive emotionalism right now, Mitchell. You, Mitchell, are experiencing excessive emotionalism. I'm calm, cool, and collected. But sometimes I experience excessive emotionalism. How do you think I know all this stuff, man? Know it. I don't mean like read about it. I mean like learned the information, practiced, experienced. Almost everything I talk about on here is from my direct experience, sir. But then also with some deductive reasoning, some supposition, some intuition, bake that into a cake. Bake that into a cake, and then it comes up. Oh yes, repressed homosexuality. Thank you. So here's part of how I fully came to grips with these matters in my own life. Part of it was through observing a lot of these strange male aggression, right? So I see it from TBE, this just bizarre, it's a bizarre, almost like cringy, off-putting aggression towards other males. Mitchell, you got it too. Well, guess who also behaved similarly in the past? Guess who doesn't do it nearly as much? Because now when I see that I'm doing that, I know why I'm doing that. I understand the reason why. But all this, and what have we seen? How can we be in these truth communities? We talk about, the atrazine making the frogs gay, and that's a joke, right? We talk about all of these things. We talk about the chemical attacks on men, the war on testosterone. We talk about, although not I shouldn't say, but it's in the media, right? And these ideas that, the young boys are attacked even in the womb, because we know that what makes, a male baby, what determines that in utero is they actually get flooded with testosterone. The baby gets flooded with testosterone. Mitchell probably, at his age and his upbringing, he probably got the full shot of testosterone in the womb. Especially, I think he wasn't like a professional fucking motocross racer or something. Like that's a high testosterone endeavor. So what we see, and especially people with head injuries, that can really fuck with the hormones, by the way. So Mitchell's got a lot on his plate, man. And, in some ways, when I look at what I'm about to be contending with in my life and what I have contended with in the last year, I've been through something, while I'm sure it's not as difficult as what Mitchell's been through. It's probably, 50% of that, 25% of that, just with my own issues around my health and some mental effects as well, right? So I don't think that I disagree, Gary. I don't find Mitchell to be I disagree. I don't find him to be effeminate. He seems like a sensitive type of person in a lot of ways, which is not inherently unmasculine, but yeah, and I see what you're doing there, Gary. I know you're not being completely, you're being somewhat facetious, most likely. I get that. And then also kind of making fun of me, because it's not like I'm some overly it's not, come on, I'm not fucking John Wayne here. It's ridiculous. It's just, I'm from when they still forced everybody, even the sensitive artist types, to be, express in a masculine fashion. Hey, what's up, Snafu? I ain't looking hard enough. Well, but some of that's, I think, some of that's a generation thing too, Gary. But yeah, I'm not. It's not even worth fighting you with on that. And Mitchell doesn't care. Mitchell, he's very. I don't know if you've noticed, he's pretty much immune to certain types of insults and attacks. Really don't do anything to him. his skill level is it's not low, right? I see what he's doing. I'm observing these patterns, but he's observing my patterns too, right? And it's like, at the end of the day, how much do I get out of this, right? What do I get? And the reality, Mitchell, is I don't really get anything other than, you know, the mods. Okay, well, thanks. The mods, you know, may or may not. See you later, Mitchell. You know, the mods may or may not moderate Mitchell. It's basically pointless because he's just going to come back under a different name anyway, right? So he's kind of already defeated us in a certain way. You know, well played, by the way. Well played, Mitchell. And I don't lack respect for Mitchell. I would prefer that he didn't do what he's doing to me, you know, obviously. I don't necessarily have a problem with what he does otherwise, although it gets old. It does get old, sir, at times. And believe it or not, I'm actually trying really fucking hard in life, Mitchell. You might find that hard to believe, but you know, there's actual psychopaths and there's actual predators out there, Mitchell. I'm not one of them. I have my list of people I've preyed upon. More or less, I've never done anything that I feel bad about to anyone that I wasn't legally married to. Well, I mean, and that was a two-way fucking street, I can assure you. I mean, I've just forgotten horrible shit that's been done to me by someone I was legally married to at the time. But, if that makes sense, I have. It's effectively 0 persons have ever been harmed by me who didn't in some way at least sign up for it on some level. Which I know that sounds like a justification. That's fine. I'm not absolving my own behavior. And I never abused anybody. If that's, you know, I'm not, thank God I'm not physically violent. I don't, in fact, I don't know that I've ever, I've pretty much never done anything to anybody as an adult physically. I mean, that's, how many people can say that, by the way? It's effectively 0 people that I've physically harmed in my entire adult life. Yeah, what's in my notes? Thank you. Thank you, Roy. Roy trying to get me back on track. Roy's going to get me right. Thanks, man. Yeah. There you go, Carl. Mitch is spurred with no whimsy. Thank you. Thank you. Well, and I feel like I covered the repressed homosexuality well enough. It's a thing, though, man. It's a real thing. And I can't stand a taboo. Like I'm the type, if there's a, you know, if there's a 800-pound elephant in the room or whatever the old cliche is, you know, not for long. I'm going to be like, yes, that thing right there that nobody's talking about, that thing. Yes, I'll just be pointing at it and going, yeah, that thing. Now these people think I'm pointing at them for some reason. It's like, no, I'm doing a fucking live stream. Funny how that works. So takes 2 to tango. That's right. And again, you know, I have no criminal record. I haven't done anything to anybody. I'm wanting to, because I don't want to say, oh, I've never done anything to anybody. And it's like, well, what about, you know, your ex-wife or whatever? Yeah, I was probably mean to her or whatever. I'm sure we can find something, you know, in me talking about one of my 2 ex-wives that I've probably admitted to doing something that can be viewed a certain type of way. So I'm already providing a disclaimer in a way. So outside of them 2 people who I've left both of them, especially number 2, I left her way better than I found her. Number 1's kind of a different story, but yeah. I'm not sure. I know number 2 would probably, I think she's had enough of me personally, but I know for a fact she's very thankful for, I did a lot for her in the leadership areas. Some of the stuff Paul talks about that a man can actually provide for a woman. I did a lot for her in those areas, but I did it for me. Of course I did. I did it for both of us. And then I learned what I needed to learn. I experienced what I needed to experience, and I moved on to the next fucking thing, which is what I think this life is in a lot of ways. So, you know, while I don't really align with Paul Unslaved with a lot of the, and he doesn't call it polygamy. Other people call it polygamy, but the polyamory and all of that, you know, this notion of just meeting somebody and then now that's your fucking soulmate and staying with them for 60 years, that it's kind of doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. I've more or less agreed with that to some extent, I think, my whole life. But then look at how many societies just men cheating is just built in and accepted, you know. So if I was born when and where I was born, but I was black, it would have just been accepted that, well, of course I have a woman but then I have all these other side bitches. That's just culturally normal, you know. And you know, even for white people in certain cultural it's just accepted. Oh, Italian men, they like the mob, right? They just all have girlfriends for the most part. And the mobsters, and it's probably a cliche, but then the mobsters make fun of whoever, you know, just loves their wife and doesn't have a girlfriend, right? But yeah, good to see you, Monel. No, Tribe. This is what happens. Tribe is this is the politics, man. This is the personality politics. And as much as I don't work within these areas that astutely necessarily, I'm kind of like Mr. Magoo in a lot of regards. So when you see Benton with like sky high popularity, and you know, there's been a time, dude, where I swear like every live stream was about me to some extent. Like sometimes I'll wake up at midnight and I turn my phone on and it's like the fucking live streams are all about me. But then I'm just Mr. Magoo. It's like I didn't, you know, Mr. Magoo meaning I'm just wandering around and like somehow ending up at the right place at the right time. Or in Mr. Magoo's case, the old cartoon, averting disaster, but he doesn't even see the disaster coming, right? Well, what happens, Tribe, is that just through these personality politics and these various dynamics, see, my cred or my own popularity got like artificially inflated, okay? But then what goes up must come down. So this is the now it's come down phase, Tribe. That's what this is. This is just how this works. Now, some people are really good at personality politics, and they know how to sort of, you know, carve out their position and then maintain it over time, right? That's not what I do. I don't do that. I just, if I Mr. Magoo my way into, oh, look, I'm the fucking belle of the ball to some extent in these internet ghettos, by the way, in a literal internet ghetto, right? So I've already limited it, you know, in my own mind. It's like, well, who cares? This doesn't even mean anything. But I love the attention. Of course I do. I mean, who goes live, you know, and just every day like I do. A lot of people do, but these are all people who, you know, this is a specific type of personality, right? And everybody responds to attention like everybody does, but you know, some of us are more set up for being observed and, you know, being, you know, if any of these broadcasts are entertaining, and I know some of them are, maybe not of late so much, but see, I'm always running these programs in my mind, like always. I'm always going over these kind of things, Tribe. Like I'm aware of the dynamics. I'm just not necessarily that, I'm not that skilled at opportunistically taking advantage, right? And probably part of that is it doesn't really even occur to me half the time to try to maneuver things to my own advantage, if that makes sense. It's just like I'm just kind of here doing my thing, if that makes sense. But so I don't think I did anything. Now, one thing I probably did, Tribe, is that Talcott, you know, I think certain people view power dynamics, right? So there's now Talcott, especially with Talcott, whatever Talcott and Paul's dynamics been lately. Well, see that interplay, some of that gets, I get inserted into that in some ways. So the fact is, you know, I've had no problem replaying my, one of my early appearances on the original In a Yurt with Books channel. And I fucking went head to head with Talcott and just like, I really very astute. And in fact, I'm still probably the person who has assessed his actual psychology the most astutely. I've never heard anybody else get quite as close to what I think to be the heart of the matter. And I was one of the first ones saying, look, Jack can't change. Because it was just months and months from my perspective of people like putting all this energy into trying to help him and change. I was like, he can't change. What are you talking about? This is not possible. He can't become introspective. He can't change. But at the same time, and a lot of this I figured out from observing my father, who has a lot of the similarities. But at the same time, Jack has very sophisticated mechanisms for appearing as if he's taking people's correction and integrating people's suggestions. My dad does the same fucking thing. But the reality is, my father never changes over time. Talcott never changes, and in certain ways, right? In certain ways. But then there's that he'll never stop trying to do a thing. Also, right? That. Something about that spirit of the person who will just keep going and going and going, right? I didn't get to see all of it yet. No, not yet, Roy. Looking forward to it. Well, so, and I want to I've already sidetracked my own, I realize I've already sidetracked my own deal here. And this is how fascinating Talcott is, by the way. I was talking about me, and now I'm talking about Talcott. I mean, just imagine the skill, and I'm in love with myself to some extent. It's a real thing. I am my own best company. I'm my own favorite person. I've always been that way. Now, maybe some folks say yes, of course. Well, no, I observe people. Most people are not they're not their favorite. Most people are not. I have my best conversations with myself, right? Like literally. I don't need another person to talk to. I can just talk and I can just have conversations with myself. What I need other people for is when I make progress internally and when I think I've been working on myself, I never really know. The only way for me to prove that is in relations with other people, right? So I'm stuck with y'all. And I don't even mean metaversely. I just mean the people, the humans, because I'm, when I watch, because I like film, I like movies, and I know I'm losing some of the audience, but that's okay. Because some of this is for me, right? Well, let me stop there. Now I'm flying off into space. So, yeah, Jack didn't change, indeed. Well, and so where I'm going, tribe, is I'm experiencing it's like as high as my popularity went very rapidly, went very high. Well, this is kind of the opposite of that now. Now it's open season on Benton to some extent. And then Paul holds the keys to that also, lest we forget. I mean, just imagine what it would be if Paul if he ever does, by the way, this is in play. And this is what people don't understand about when Paul says, I'm in the power position. Well, he is in some regards. That's very much true. Now, there's people like me who will recognize that immediately and I'll just work on that basis. Like, I'll just do what I'm going to do based on that person having a certain amount of influence and sway. Same thing with Drew. Same thing with a lot of people. I'm very, very quickly notice the dynamics, right? But then you have people like Talcott who suffers from megalomania on some level. I mean, he exhibits it, and it's fucking crazy, man. So yeah, that's the dynamics, tribe. I didn't do anything. That's the part about being a human. Because some of this can all seem very unfair, especially if I make it personal. It's not personal, but it wasn't personal when my popularity went sky high from my perspective. It's easy for me to identify with the popularity because I can say, oh, well, I'm great. I'm awesome. I'm wonderful. Well, I am. But some of that is that, affirmations and sort of, unlearning my negative self-talk. And so all of these processes and practices of self-improvement just to get to be not a horrible person, by the way. So imagine being a horrible person. And I certainly was at the time, although compared to other people, no. See, this is the point I'm making with Mitchell. Dude, there's way worse motherfuckers. So here I am sort of taking on the sins of the world in a way, although not, that's a tongue-in-cheek statement, because I'm actually willing to accept the wrong I've done in the past. And I'm willing to identify and say, yes, I'm responsible for that, or I was responsible for that, and then rectify that to the best of my ability. And then also, I've told people this. I've said, man, I've apologized for things to people. And when I apologize, it's a specific apology. And people have gotten mad at me before because they tried to apologize to me. And I will not accept a non-specific apology from somebody. I'm like, okay, what are you apologizing for? And they don't want to say it sometimes. And I'm like, listen, I can't, how can I forgive you? How can I accept your apology if I don't know what the fuck you're apologizing for? And dude, people, because, just for somebody to get to the point of apologizing, we see out here, most of these folks are incapable psychologically. They cannot accept blame for anything. So, of course, they're not apologizing. So, of course, if they are apologizing to me, of all people, they probably need something from me, right? If not right now, in the future. So I'm like, well, what is the thing you're apologizing for? Because when I give an apology, it's, hey, I did these things and I was wrong for that. And then I'll say, and I'm going to apologize by not doing it anymore. Because I've even told that to people. I've said, okay, now apologize by knocking it the fuck off. Because if you're just going to keep doing it, how can I accept this apology? If I know and you're going to keep doing the thing you're apologizing. You see what I'm saying? It's like, so I'm going to apologize by not doing that shit. How did I get onto apologies? We'll blame this on the coming off of the THCO. Certainly my sleep is going to be kind of messed up, and It'll take a minute to sort of transition. It'll take a couple of days to. But now I've already given myself an excuse for whatever this is. What's up, Dominic? I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. But I'm always doing great. That's even when I'm going through hell. There's something in me, and I believe something in everybody. How much the person is tapped into that, I don't know, but there's something in me that can never be defeated. That's what people don't realize. And that's probably true about themselves also. Now, some folks do realize this. Same thing with Mitchell. There's something in there that it'll never be defeated. Because if it could be defeated, Lord knows this realm would have done it by now, right? And I've said it before, if this realm could destroy me, it would have done so by now. But it still keeps trying. It certainly keeps trying, right? It's not going to stop trying to defeat me. Well, I'm just rambling at this point, so maybe I will start reading some of the comments. But anyway, I don't know that I even answered what Tribe was bringing up about, what did Benton do? But nothing. I didn't do anything other than what I always do. I'm just my normal Mr. Magoo self, wandering around to some extent and occasionally offering some insight into something that somehow nobody else seems to have figured out, which is sort of my, I was, exactly. Thank you, Tribe. Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong a lot. But I mean, so is everybody else. That's the thing. So now I'm the only, this is what gaslighting is, by the way. Gaslighting on some level is the idea that everybody out here is just more or less above reproach and doing everything correctly. But then something has gone wrong and there's an issue, and it's because Benton is the only person who's crazy or who is this thing. And we're all fucking just doing things perfectly. But it's like, no, I'm watching literally every human being, and almost all their lives are disasters on some level, mine included, by the way. Who doesn't have elements of complete and fucking farce and disaster in their life? Seriously, on some level, who doesn't? Now, maybe some folks did, and they figured it the fuck out, and they've come out the other end of it. That's not what I'm saying. It seems like at every point of everyone's life, more or less, it's just a complete shambles and disaster. Whether the person is aware of it, whether the person faces it, whether the person accepts it. Certainly people have seemingly unlimited energies for running around in self-denial and delusion and denial, right? And ultimately that's, other than some specific, I have some things that my brain does really well specifically compared to some folk. Certainly have some detriments, but ultimately the only thing that may be special about me is I'm just willing to be like, okay, I'll accept that I'm the way I'm describing, right? So how can I be in a realm and how can I observe these people but not realize, well, I must be like them, at least I'm more like them than I'm not, right? How could I not be? So, and then being willing to accept and own that about oneself, and then also realizing how there's power in that. Because if I accept all of that, now how can I be a victim of that? Now I have the power to change all of that. And that's what I am doing. And that's what is important to me. Me. As it's supposed to be. Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I hope I'm back on track. Goodness gracious. And I was in a disaster and knew it was a disaster. I knew that the content was a disaster. The fucking all day, every day intoxication was a disaster. I've actually gained some weight though, so it wasn't a complete disaster. I'm probably up a solid 5 pounds, believe it or not. And what I mean is accounting for fluctuations. So, and sometimes I step on the scale, it says 130, but then, it'll be back to like 125. So I'm just saying, I was hovering around 120. Now it seems to be around 125. Lots of fluctuations I've been eating a lot of watermelon. Although not as a mono diet, I'm still eating the meat. The meat's been a big one for the old noggin here. Yeah, well, and then some people can't do it. See, Carl, Jack can't do introspection. My father can't do introspection, but my father can do all sorts of sophisticated things with his personality and his psychology. That can cause other people to believe that he's become introspective. This guy really, he thinks he's an empath now. Like he thinks he's a fucking Sigma male empath. Now he is programmable. The fact is, you know, that's a kind of a little known secret is many people are just straight up programmable. And everybody is to some extent, unfortunately, but my dad's very programmable. When the internet starts telling him he's a fucking Sigma male empath and all of these things, he just believes it, right? Without really, because I'm like, and then he runs into his son, and I say, "What are you talking about, man? You're a fucking alpha male. What's wrong with you? You were fucking senior class president, for God's sakes. That's the Sigma doesn't. The Sigma might run, maybe. Well, maybe the Sigma does win on occasion. I'm just saying, like that was not you, sir. The fucking stereotypical captain of the football team. But now he's a Sigma male because the internet told him he's a Sigma male. Sure, you're not. You're a fucking alpha male, sir. And if that's even real, by the way, if the alpha, and I don't even really think it's real for the most part, but if that's all real, you don't choose that, sir. That's just genetic for the most part. So what are we even talking about? Like Sigma male, that's the next door neighbor. That's the creepy kid from the American Beauty movie, taking all the pictures and being creepy. The pot dealer. That's your stereotypical Sigma male. There's nothing wrong with that, but how is that something to fucking glorify, right? Maybe he probably would have enjoyed his life more if he'd went and played some sports and been a little more successful socially. Racist watermelon. Oh, dude, have you seen Cali Muscle? This guy used to be this gigantic black, professional bodybuilder. Well, hell, now he's all in on the fruitarian and he almost died of a heart attack a few years ago, and now he knows he can't. He can't maintain his muscle mass and live ultimately. And this is not a dumb guy, in spite of the way he presents. This is a very intelligent guy, Cali Muscle, very smart. You can tell he's very intelligent, and so he knew at a certain point he can't keep all these muscles and live, right? So he's chosen life, and apparently he's probably still on roids to some extent because he's still going to try to keep the muscle. That's a lot of hard work. You can say steroids till you're blue in the face. That's a lot of hard work building that amount of muscle. So, steroids or no steroids. Well, he did 32 days on the watermelon fast or whatever they're calling it, watermelon diet tribe. It's hilarious, dude. His thumbnails as a dark-skinned black guy, and you can tell he knows that he's playing into certain things in the culture, like the Bamboozled movie by Spike Lee, that sort of thing. The shucking and the jiving and the just all of that. There's a term for that. I forget what they call that. All the stereotypical blaxploitation type of material, and like lawn jockeys, all that sort of stuff. The iconography, is that the right term? Iconography. Chicken wing diet. I grew up just so everybody knows. I grew up. My hometown is majority black, and my home county is majority black. And there's only about 100 majority black counties in this entire country. So this is not a common experience. So I just want to point that out because I don't like the idea that sometimes I get lumped. Because I will talk about racial topics, but I was socialized with black folks. I went to church with black folks and white folks. I grew up with black folks and white folks. So I do want to separate myself from that. So I think it's interesting because sometimes I get just accidentally I get lumped in, and I don't even mean that tribe's doing that, or I just feel like I need to draw that distinction myself. Oh yeah, indeed they are. Collard greens are very nutritious, packed with oxalates, of course. Is Musical the Secret still here? Yeah, we can't be talking about collard greens. That's a joke, Musical the Secret. Good to see you, by the way. Good to see you, sir. Yeah, well, I got to say, the watermelon's very powerful. That's the thing about the watermelon. Watermelon's strong, man. And it's funny because like watermelon's a thing that is sort of promoted like outside of all this dieting and all of these things. Just in general, like the idea of watermelon, it seemed to be yeah, it's great for you, but don't have beyond a certain amount. It's kind of like eggs in that regard. But the reality is, I'm doing great on eating like a lot of watermelon, and I was eating smaller amounts. I'm not sure that I think there's something to eating a lot of it. And by itself, also, there seems to be something to that. Now, part of that may just be how sick we have become as people, right? Physically sick, But yeah, I'm digging it. It's working for me. Although, unfortunately, I'm terrible at picking a decent watermelon. I guess I'll get better over time. Well, there you go. Yeah. There's ways around a lot of things, right, Tribe? Yeah. And I found a channel that's real interesting. I might actually go to the library later. I don't know. Not quite sure. That was one thing is I definitely didn't want to go. I didn't like being in the library all baked Alaska. That's the main reason I stopped going. Although there were other reasons. Well, and I mean that's the thing is like Rachel, it's like I've been around a lot of people that did not eat meat, and I spent so much time barefoot, in pseudo communal living out on the West Coast with some of those people I was hanging out with were actual hippies, believe it or not. There are actual hippies, and then pseudo, neo hippies or whatever. But I've been in environments where if I wanted to offer someone food or invite them to a meal, I sort of had to know to ask them if they eat meat. Like I have to find that out first because I can't just assume that a person eats meat. Whereas in my normal life, especially historically, just everybody ate meat, of course. Yeah, in their natural, exactly, Tribe, exactly. Well, and that was one thing that used to frustrate me about because I just come across like I'm a cop or something. Like I can't help that I'm serious by nature, and all of this. And I can't help if I look a certain way, and I'm just the detail. I'm detail oriented. I'm pedantic in a lot of ways. A lot of that comes across as like what we used to call anal retentive, and a certain authoritative bearing and all of this, right? And people, and especially so many people being on speed and amphetamines when they would get paranoid, and now it's like, oh, Benton's a cop or whatever, and it's like, listen, man, can we face the reality that the last thing that any act has, like, do y'all not know cops? Like, the last thing a cop wants to do is hang out with motherfucking hippies all day. No offense. I just would tell them that. I said, no offense, but go find a cop. And their more or less worst nightmare is having to spend all day, every day with y'all. Y'all are their hippies are a cop's fingernails on the chalkboard. Okay. So I'm like, do you really think that I'm just like, it's fucking, I'm Serpico or something, and I'm trying to climb the fucking I don't even know if Serpico was undercover, but I'm trying to climb. I'm Donnie Brasco all of a sudden, and I'm so determined on my career path to fucking make something of myself that I'm willing to subject myself to hippies. But I'm a cop. I have the heart of a cop. Bullshit. Fuck you. It ain't possible. Not for me anyway. I'm not that highly motivated. And I used to tell them this. I said, I'm highly capable, y'all. I used to tell them, I said, I don't think y'all are really recognizing my skill level. If the system sent a fucking undercover down here, I'm not the undercover. I'm that guy's boss by now. I was 40 something years old. I said, yeah, maybe let's just take this premise and run with it that I would become an undercover. I'd be that guy's boss by now. What are y'all talking about? I'd be one of the best at all these things. Clearly, I'm a 99 ASVAB guy, for God's sakes. Imagine if I actually chose to go serve the system. Thank God I can't conform. I tried. God damn, I tried to conform. It's not possible. And Paul Unslaved talks about this sometimes. I think he probably had similar experiences. He probably tried to conform some of the time, although I don't want to put words in his mouth. I tried very hard. It's not possible. Some people, no matter what they do, cannot conform to society fully. And that's one of the big things that the corporate, now that everything's corporate, it doesn't deal with this very effectively, in my view. Now, maybe from the perspective of the state or Benito Mussolini's helicopter hand or whatever, the system, maybe as far as the system is concerned, it does cope with these things very effectively. But from the perspective of the individuals who are unable to conform, it does a very poor job. So when I'm looking at my situation now and I need to go, I must necessarily go and secure my own I have to feed myself, which is good. I'm glad on some level that I must necessarily go out and provide for myself. But it's like, yeah, if I only didn't have a brain, if I only didn't have a brain, that's how I talk myself down sometimes. I'm in some sort of situation and I'm experiencing some kind of problems that everybody else is just, why? It's like just bizarre to me. People are bizarre. I don't understand. Word must be out about what I'm doing here. It's like people are driving by and honking. But oh, do whatever you got to do. I don't, you're not bothering me, Divine Spirit. Which is funny because like half the time I'm just talking shit. Like, yeah, I'm serious about what I'm talking about, and I take these things seriously, but I am just kind of shooting my mouth. It's sometimes I'm just confused because people are like, yeah, Benton's talking shit. I'm like, it's almost all I do. I don't. It's like, what? What? So yeah, if Divine Spirit wants to talk some shit, go for it. That's the way I look at it. Like, yeah, of course I'm talking. This is pretty much what I do. I talk a lot of shit. When I meet somebody that talks a lot of shit, I'm like, yeah, that's a person that talks a lot of shit. Just assign it a value and move on, right? And then we get into the feelings. Of course, feelings is at the root of a lot of this. And I've been working with Highly Suspect a little bit. Oh, good. I assumed it wasn't directed at me. But again, all comments are about me on some level, whether they are or not. Well, and that's the thing, Tribe, is that's an interesting topic. And I know I'm kind of all over the place. And shout out to 26 in the house. Thank y'all for listening. And this does help me a lot. And y'all have gotten me through some tough times. I mean, I am supported by some of the folks here. And then some folks come in and attack me at times. And then sometimes I attack folks. And, it's just, it's humans being humans, really, realistically. But yeah, I've been going through a lot of shit this last year. Like this channel and these live streams and these broadcasts have helped me a lot. It's I've been in some bad places recently, very recently. Been in some bad frames of mind, and but that's where the introspection comes in because I'm aware of it. Right, I'm patient with myself. So the thing is, look at Talcott. He can't do self-care. A person can't do proper self-care if they can't figure out what needs caring for. So this is my basis for compassion for people like my dad, my father, and people like Talcott. Like he's a victim of these things. That doesn't absolve him of whatever damage he might do to somebody or has done to people. That's not an absolution, but I can understand, right? And I can see, wow, that would suck. Why was I given some of these same sort of personality, these defects of character, but I'm able to be introspective? Why was my sister more or less a sociopath at a certain point, but then she somehow has become introspective? So she can never have actually been a sociopath because she became introspective. See what I'm saying? But she presented as a sociopath, but that was back in the time when most people had absolutely no defenses to sociopathy. It wasn't that long ago. Okay. I'm 48, was born in the time warp. Part of my charmed life in a way has been that I could just more or less do what the fuck I wanted in a lot of ways. And thank God I'm not a psychopath or a sociopath because again, I am introspective, so I can't ever be those things fully. But just, not having developed a conscience fully yet, although I've always felt bad when I hurt another person, right? I've always been some sensitive, but, to things that I could justify in my own mind by, creating some sort of legalese to where I was right, but I still behaved poor. Same thing with Tribe. When I apologized to Tribe, I was right, but the way I expressed it made me wrong. I was correct in my thinking. I made myself wrong through my actions. So I'm a person who's been technically correct a lot in my life, but then made myself wrong through my poor behavior. And I continue to do that to some extent. But I can do better. That's what gets me out of bed every morning. If I was trapped in this experience and couldn't do better, what would be the point? I probably would delete at that point, right? Why even be here? If you mean I'm gonna, it's like it's like Groundhog Day, but a Groundhog Day, and when I can't learn to play the piano, or you see what I'm saying? Like I can't work on myself. But the realm is a Groundhog Day in some ways, but I get to work on myself. So it is that movie, The Groundhog Day, in some way. In some way. So this is the practice. It's me managing these things. Yeah, 49. That's right. Is that the year of release? See, I don't know about a lot of this stuff, Dominic. So, interesting. Seven times seven, I guess. Would that be the significance of 49? I guess. I'm assuming. Well, yeah, you're good, Tribe. I mean, it's just I'm overly sensitive, man. So thank you for saying that. You didn't do anything wrong, though, Tribe. It was me. That's the thing is you might, if me and you, that's the thing is I behave so poorly sometimes that, like, I take a situation in which maybe both parties are to blame, and now I'm the only one to blame because I behave so poorly. If that makes sense. But yeah, I appreciate you being willing to say that, Tribe. It's good. And again, I've said this before. I can work with anybody that can work with me. I can work with Tribe because Tribe is showing that he can work with me. Same thing with Paul Enslaved. I can work with Paul because he's shown he can work with me. I was able to work with Drew for a time, Chalk Body Outline, because he showed he was able to work with me. And then eventually, just whatever the personality stuff was and the collected history just became too much. And I don't blame him, and I hope he doesn't blame me for that. But who knows? Who cares, really, ultimately? Yeah, 7-year cycles. There you go. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I believe in a lot of that stuff. I know a lot of that to be true. That idea of, our intimate partners, under certain circumstances, it seems like if I'm, life partnered with somebody for a period of time, and then supposedly if we choose to separate, we still exchange energy for like 7 years. I believe I'm into all that stuff. All of that makes sense to me. And I know for a fact that me and her, number two, absolutely communicate. Well, both of them, we absolutely communicated with each other from a distance, like some form of telepathy. It's 100%. Like I know that. Whether or not anybody else knows or chooses to believe or what, it's not my concern. So some of that stuff absolutely is valid. And I believe I believe every human has full access to all spiritual powers, and we necessarily limit ourselves from being able to access whatever those things are. And I also think it seems to me like the most powerful, thing we know of is the human mind, as far as I can tell, other than whatever it is, whatever we may choose to decide made all of this, if one is willing to even accept that notion, right? Yeah, there you go. 5, 7, 11 in the. Yeah, we were probably right around 11 when, probably coming up on 11 when me and number two split, and it was 7 for number one. Yeah, yeah. The one before that was like 3.5, but not all of them are going to follow that pattern necessarily. But yeah, thanks, Tribe. I've always appreciated Tribe, certainly. For very specific reasons. So good on you, Tribe, man. I like when you're around. So I felt bad that day. I really did. I was like, what the fuck? Why did I do that? Well, I don't know why. The excessive emotionalism, which had nothing to do with Tribe. See, that's how I'm wrong. Whatever Mitchell can come over here and he could be right. Let's just say Mitchell, he could be right. He's not doing what he's doing because of me. He's doing what he's doing because of his emotional process. And he's most likely experiencing excessive emotions, right? I have a lot of experience with excessive emotions. A lot. Good Lord. What a nightmare on some level. And this is what I'm trying to work. One of the things I'm trying to work with Highly Suspect on is he doesn't believe that he can feel very strongly and nothing needs to be done. Now, yeah, sometimes I feel strongly and I choose to act out on my feelings. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying if I'm watching what's going on right inside of Benton, and if I know intellectually and I understand and comprehend that I'm not the behavior. I'm not the emotion. I'm not the thought. What I am is the thing that's watching all of this, right? But that, in my lesser of all forms, rarely was I ever tapped in and identified with that watcher. But I knew it was there. Like, I think we all have these experiences to some extent. I think we all kind of know that's there. Or people who have some measure of, something going on in their head, right? Some form of, and this might even get into what we call like indigo children and all this, the idea of the indigo children. I think I was technically before that, but I think I might have been some early version of whatever that is now, My youngest sister most likely is, for sure. She's born in 1980. I don't see how she couldn't be. But then also, look who comes under the most heavy spiritual attacks. Like, yeah, I've been attacked spiritually. I know my middle sister has, but my youngest sister, who, is a different generation. Me and Jessica, my middle sister, are Gen X. My youngest sister, Lee, is millennial. But yeah, she may be an actual indigo child. She's been spiritually attacked way more than the rest of us, and we've all been attacked pretty hard, as far as I can tell. Thank you, Dominic. So, and that's what I'm saying. I know I never fully finished up on that point, but so when I end up going off on tribe, it's because I experienced excessive emotionalism. I recognized it probably, but then I chose to become too closely identified with it. And then, allowing myself to lose control, right? Now I can view this now, a person in a very low state of evolution, it's actually tribe's fault. So now even as I'm feeling kind of guilty, because some people, I do feel bad when I'm mean to people most of the time. And so some folks would actually blame tribe. Oh, it's tribe's fault. Well, it felt like tribe's fault afterwards, but then once the emotions wear off, okay, am I actually going to be mature enough to go over what I did and be like, oh, okay, well, actually, I owe tribe an apology. And how long does that even take to get to that point? But then for me, the trick is, if I catch it when I'm experiencing the excessive emotionalism, and then I recognize, okay, well, I'm watching all of this. It seems like I'm experiencing this, and I am feeling the emotions, but realizing, oh, I don't have to do anything. And in fact, that's a mistake, because the reality is, if I just don't act on the emotion, nothing fucking happens, right? But I think here's where the anxiety comes in, is the person in the state of excessive emotion, they can't understand that these feelings don't have to be resolved through overt actions or overt thoughts. It can just, it doesn't have, nothing has to be done. But it feels like something needs to be done. It really feels like, oh my God, this tension and whatever this is, like make it stop, or do something. But all of those thought forms actually intensifies the feelings. It feeds into whatever that is. And this is the process of meditation on some levels. What we're talking about, this is the practice of meditation. And I am a yogi. I mean, I'm a practicing fucking yogi. I've been doing it for many years. I don't talk about it. It's not my identity. I don't view myself that way, but more or less at a certain level, I was like, at a certain point, I just had to recognize, oh, because of all these practices over time, I am that thing to some extent. Yeah, I'm not what people would conceive of as a yogi. Well, it's like, yeah, what is yoga? It's meditation. It's not stretching. Westerners are the ones who decided yoga is stretching. It's like, no, yoga is what people in India invented for folks who couldn't get into a full lotus, more or less. It's like, no, this is how to get to the point of being able to do seated meditation. And also there's physical benefits to the movements and the stretching, but that's why it's called yoga. It's because the exercises were, because the secular types who did not grow up meditating all day didn't, and especially as people have adopted more Western style of living and sitting too much, and God forbid they have an actual toilet or commode in their house. Well, most fucking Westerners, especially men, can't sit cross-legged with a fucking straight back. for any period of time. It's too painful. And I couldn't either at first. I was having to sit in a chair or sit on put a pillow under my ass, and not in a sexual sense. I know where some people's minds are going, because my mind went there, but then eventually it was like, yeah, now I can. But then I'm going to lose that ability. So now I'm looking at myself going, well, shit, I used to be sitting cross-legged on a more or less a daily basis. Now I'm sitting in fucking chairs all day. So now I got to get with the program. Well, yeah, and it does a lot of things. But what I'm saying is, what yoga is meditation. Yoga is not a bunch of physical movements. It's just not. That can be combined with it. Yoga is meditation, period. Americans are the ones, and Westerners are the ones who turned it into stretching. It's not that. Now we view it as that, but that's not what yoga is. A yogi is a practitioner of yoga. I don't do none of that shit for the most part. I do my own versions of yoga as far as actual. There's stuff in my physicality that I work out through, like intuitive movements and stuff. Meanwhile, how did formalized yoga come to be? Is people figured the shit out, right? But once, I'm the high level fucking practitioners probably don't even really need a lot of those physical movements as much. And I'm not shitting on yoga, as performed in the West. I think it's great. It's just not. The problem I have with it is the term. It's gotten lumped in with actual meditation. But by the way, when somebody's doing their movements, they're also meditating, right? So like back when I used to do a lot of the ice baths, that is meditation. That's what that is. The person, necessarily, in order to do the high level yoga type of stretching and breathing, that they're going to have to increase their powers of meditation. They have to. Can't get to those levels without practicing meditation. So we're kind of saying the same stuff in different ways, I think. So hopefully I'm not offending half the audience, because that's not my intention. But my need to become pedantic at a certain point just overcomes everything. Which again, that's my value to society in some ways, because if there's a Benton around, we can't have a 500-pound elephant in the room, because Benton is going to be pointing at the elephant saying, yes, that thing that none of you are talking about, right? So yeah, I understand why I'm annoy the fuck out of people a great percentage of the time. I get it. I certainly understand why. Yeah, I think that's probably true, Tribe. And I think actual contemplation is really more apropos in a lot of cases. Just actual contemplation, because that's how I integrate, a lot of the material, a lot of the things I've figured out or whatever. If I have some knowing, a lot of that was integrated through contemplation, right? Contemplation. And this is where I am, as much as Word Wizard does annoy me at times, I will say that. And well, I annoy people, so what? I mean, again, I recognize that I'm out here annoying the fuck out of people some percentage of the time. So what's the relevance of me being annoying? What's the relevance of Word Wizard annoying me? It's not much. It's just, I'm a human feeling annoyed. But, that's why I'm so complimentary of Word Wizard in a respect, is he's almost obsessed with bringing everything back to specific definitions of specific words, which is very, very important, because there's a reason why these words have specific definitions, like contemplation. And now we're speaking English, and many words have multiple specific definitions, and now it becomes contextual. And I've talked to Wizard. I haven't said this directly to Wizard, but I think he's heard me say that the reality is most of the general public, they have almost no tolerance for following, well, this word means this in this context. In that other context, it means this other thing. And yes, I was talking to you, John Doe, yesterday about this term in this specific context. Well, now I'm talking to you about this other meaning of this word in a different context. People are just going to tap the fuck out. Like, I recognize that. Why was I born with a with an almost inexhaustible ability to force myself to operate within these very minute details and aspects? I don't fucking know. But I recognized early and often that to expect these people to do what I'm able to do naturally, that's insane. And then I don't want to live in a world where everywhere I go, motherfuckers are breaking everything down to the most minute level possible. Because, yeah, that'd be fun for a day or a week for me. But then eventually it's just like, oh, my God, what a nightmare. You know, can I get back to some of these amusing folks who don't need to break every fucking thing down to its smallest constituent parts, right? And who just obsessively, no matter what, they're going to do that thing, right? Yeah, we need people like that. Society, humans need people like that. But we don't need everybody to be that. It'd be horrible, dude, horrible. So, when I'm having it out with RT on some level based on, when I'm saying, well, a lot of this damage done to society. Thank you, Rob. Good to see you, brother. When I'm observing a lot of this damage, this deep wounds that, look, humans, we've wounded each other very deeply over this fake pandemic. We've done a lot of damage to one another, because I can remember a time when I went in public, whether people felt a certain type of kinship or regard for their fellow man and woman, they at least pretended to respect people to at least a minimum degree, to pretend, right? To put on a happy face, right? To keep up appearances. Most of that shit's gone now. If I just go to just a store around just run-of-the-mill folks. Now, I know I'm in Arkansas. I understand it's not like this everywhere. But these folks have had it with each other, man. And me included. I've had it with these motherfuckers. These motherfuckers have had it with me. I'm sick of looking at them. They're sick of looking at me. Now when I'm in the store, I detect a whole lot of, I'm just trying to get what the fuck I got to get and get the fuck out of there. So is everybody else to some extent. But I used to go in public and it was just, some of it was some just la la la, I'm having a charmed life here, I mean, am I crazy? This is a real thing, right? You folks I know some of y'all are going through this. Where it's just people have tapped the fuck out. So, at this point, I kind of want to go just figure out a way to make most of my money online or remotely, while not necessarily wage slaving. While I certainly have some level of business skill, believe it or not, something about me, I'm just not really set up to just go out and get rich on my own for whatever reason. I know I'm a great number two. I know that. I think Tribe might fall in this category as well to some extent. Like, realistically, somebody who's running some kind of organization, could just scoop me up and say, well, this guy's eccentric and, he has to have certain circumstances, but dude, somebody could just send me off on a mission and I'll just go complete the fucking mission, right? I've got a lot of upside, man. There's a lot of shit I can do. I'm very effective in the real world, but I just don't think I care enough. Like I'm not, what's the word for that? Ambitious. I'm not that ambitious. I'm able to set my mind to things and accomplish them and grind and bust my ass. That's a different thing, right? I'm talking about actual ambition. I really don't have it, honestly. If I had, I'm pretty sure I would have made a financial success of myself by now. Because I want to speak correctly, because in America, when we hear the word success, we automatically attach that to money, almost reflexively, right? When we hear that word, and I did an entire broadcast where I said this is success, meaning this broadcast is success, and it is on some level. But meaning my life is success in some ways, but I'm pointing it out based on what, Word Wizard? Specific definitions of specific words in specific contexts or contexts, if that's the word, right? So I'm playing word games in a way, right? Because obviously I know based on what most people consider success, I'm very unsuccessful. So I know I'm already playing with concepts, which, by the way, if I'm going to conduct an intellectual broadcast, because it's going to have, or pseudo-intellectual, because if it's going to have to be intellectual or pseudo-intellectual, meaning that most of the audience is going to be smart people, what does that mean? That means we're already not appealing to the lowest common denominator, which means we're already limiting the size and scope and reach of the broadcast. Now, maybe Benton could go out here and create IRL content that will appeal to the lowest common denominator. That's probably true. I don't think I'm capable of doing that as the person who's running the channel, right? I can probably just go out and do the things. I probably don't have the skill set, and certainly have no desire to develop the skill set to also simultaneously be the person who understands and knows how to run the channel, right? And that's a rare person, as far as I can tell. The people who are able to do all of that, and I've said it before, no man is an island. It's not. I'm not supposed to be able to do everything, and so that shows you kind of what the realm has become. This idea that, yeah, America is a place where I can go out here and kick ass and take names. There is still a lot of opportunity. As much as we talk shit about America, as much as a lot of us like to talk shit on America, and I'm one of those people to some extent. I hate the government, but for whatever reason, this is still a place, as horrible as things are, where a person can just go out here and kick ass and take names and make a financial success of themselves. But then, how many of those folks, their other aspects of their lives end up being complete and total disasters? You know, of course. But some folks, I've met people who've been able to go out here and kick ass and take names and still be really good people. See, that's the well-kept secret, or that's like the taboo, or that's the thing people don't want to face when we talk shit on rich people or wealthy people, or, you know, the affluent in society. Some of them are really actually well-rounded, well-adjusted people, believe it or not. Some of them, not many, right? Some of them are actually just fucking cool people to be around, and who will actually do, you know, are not just complete predators, pieces of garbage. But there ain't many of them, right? There ain't many. And then I would question, you know, it's hard for me to even relate to the thought process of somebody who would build themselves up to that extent, but then also, you know, have certain understandings of, you know, understanding what the financial system is, right? Understanding like somebody like Tommy, who on some level understands what this thing is, but still is able to operate within it, if I'm willing to accept him at his word, right? You know, some of these people who run content creator channels, who, you know, there's people on YouTube that, you know, taught themselves and with their own abilities went out and became, you know, now they have their net worth is $150 million, right? Like, I understand that I don't have the ambition. I just don't have what it takes to go out there and get that wealthy, because it's not that I wouldn't want $150 million. That's not the point. I'm not set up to go out and have that as a goal, because what do most folks say? Oh, I'd be happy with 5 million. Well, yeah, and the person happy with 5 million probably never makes it to 150 million, although some of them do, right? And then we get into some people probably really do want to help their family. You know, some people probably do want to help the people around them, and they recognize that getting wealthy could be a reason could help them, right? Well, I know that my path to my purpose in helping people is probably not going to be through me becoming independently wealthy, because I'll probably just do a bunch of THCO every day and, you know, talk about myself online, which is kind of what I'm doing anyway, or what I have been doing, but I can't stay there. See, no matter what, I don't really have the luxury of remaining in this space I've been in recently. But you know what would enable me to do that? Just the smallest measure of wealth. And somebody recently said, yeah, you know, Mitchell got $70,000, and in some ways it's the worst thing that could have happened to him, because it, you know, whatever, you know, now I don't know what he was like before. I have no idea. But, you know, in some way, look, even $500,000 would ruin me on some level, because as much as I like to think I would do the right thing, if I just, oh, well, now I don't have to worry every day, you know, now that's taken care of. Well, it's not true. And I am taken care of. If I look back on my 48 years in the realm, I've never, you know, I've been cared for the whole way. Why would that be? You know, I've been provided for in some way. I think there is something to that biblical notion of, you know, you know, the birds of the air and all of this, they don't gather into barns and all of this, but they've been taken care of anyway, right? And aren't you of higher value than the birds? Like, I'm not a big Bible guy necessarily, but I think there's something to that. Now, that's not true because it's written in the Bible. Maybe that's just, it's written in the Bible and it's true, right? It's like, you know, it's not a cause and effect necessarily. Yeah. What is a force? Yeah. What is a field? Yeah. Well, and here's another thing, with what Dominic and others are talking about in Tribe, and me and Yurt share this in common, more or less. What's up, Jackie? Good to see you. I heard you had a good broadcast there. Like to go, yeah, and that's the thing is, yeah. Well, here's okay. Let me bottom line this. Let's bottom line the Mitchell stuff. Okay. I would be Mitchell's friend. Okay. Probably attempted to be his friend at a certain point. Although certainly I have certain manipulator aspects to my personality, right? Part of me being a good person is minimizing that, although I just naturally sort of a manipulative, right? Whatever. But I probably, I wanted to be Mitchell's friend at a certain point. Now, something I learned about myself and living in the streets, and I think me and Mitchell have had some of the same type of experiences in a way. I was also that way to some extent. Although I'm not wired for loneliness since I'm an actual hermit, right? I've never really experienced loneliness. Although probably I have, and maybe I just don't understand what that even feels like. Maybe I have experienced it. I don't know. But yeah, there's something to, again, like we all need a certain level of human interaction. Now, Mitchell probably is introverted and all of these things, but I don't know what level of human interaction he needs on a daily basis in order to be normal and healthy, right? And I mean normal for Mitchell. So yeah, it's obvious that some of what Mitchell's going through is that he's not getting his basic human needs met. Clearly. And he's got he's had some challenges with his own, psyche, right? As have as have many of us, and he's probably somewhat limited in his ability to do anything about it himself because of his TBI, right? And everything he's been through. So, I'll never not respect Mitchell because I see that he'll never give up. He's tenacious. He'll never give up. And there's something to that, right? That is the masculine spirit in some way. He embodies that in some ways, certainly. And I do, it's impressive to me. But then there's a lot of super negative things that seems to be leading the charge with his personality. I also do some of this, Mitchell. Like I recognize some of this. I also sort of lead with some of my more negative aspects of self at times. Like, why is that? I don't know. And then somehow making it work. See, that's the thing about Mitchell. Mitchell can make this work for himself. See, I'm very similar to Mitchell and me are very similar in some ways. I can make this work for me for a period of time, Tribe. So some of what you're seeing when Tribe is a little confused, like, hey, what did Benton do? Because all of a sudden it's just hey, everybody thinks Benton is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I know I'm being hyperbolic and I'm exaggerating. We're going to wrap up in about 10 minutes, by the way. Hopefully. I'm kind of on one today, but praise God, by the way. I'm on one, but I think y'all know what I'm saying, right? So what I've learned about myself is that, when I talk about, for me to improve and work on myself and all of these things, and for me to accomplish what it seems to me like I must accomplish. So when I say I'm not ambitious, that's really not true. I'm very ambitious when it comes to mastering whatever this is. So it's almost like I'm so in love with myself that like this is literally the most important fucking thing. By the way, make literal again. But as far as I can tell, this is the most important thing I could possibly do in this realm is make me the best version of me I possibly, to exalt myself, but then not to do it in the proper way, not to do it so this is where we get into internalization, an externalization versus an internalization. Talcott's only method for trying to exalt himself is by having other people do it for him. Okay. Which, number one, even if he accomplishes that, that's probably going to be the worst fucking thing that ever happened to him. Probably number two, he probably can't accomplish that. Number three, it's just no. I can do that by perfecting myself within myself while realizing I probably can't ever actually perfect myself. So I'm engaged in a process that I most likely can never complete in this incarnation. Meanwhile, if some of us are willing to entertain the soul trap, maybe I did choose to come, whatever my essence is, as far as I can tell, existed somewhere else, and then it came here. So this is not my home. So maybe I'm willing to accept that on some level, my spirit or essence chose these specific set of circumstances for specific reasons, which leads me to believe that whatever I'm attempting to perfect here most likely cannot be perfected in this incarnation. And if it is, it seems to me like if I do achieve that perfection, which I don't think is even possible, although who knows, why limit myself? It seems to me like to embody that perfection is now I'm no longer what I am now. So now I'm in fact, now I would be a completely different thing. And I guess I probably couldn't incarnate here, or I wouldn't incarnate here. See, that's the thing. Maybe higher level beings can incarnate here, but they wouldn't. So yeah, maybe I can think, okay, well, maybe I'm on one of my last, maybe I've done this a bunch of times, the wheel, the karmic wheel or whatever, we know in the Eastern sense. And maybe I am potentially on the cusp of escaping the, the life and death cycle or whatever. I don't know. That's not really I'm not the being that determines that as far as I can tell. At least not, when I'm saying that, I mean my, operating via this human consciousness and this human psychology. Makes sense to me. So yeah, this is what, everything I'm describing, this is what gets me going. This is my ambition, to continue to work on these things, and going out here externally and building up, certain things in this realm. It's just I've never had an ambition for that. Right. That makes sense. Although, show me a human, I'll show you a hypocrite. I'm sure in certain ways I have done everything I'm saying I haven't done. I'm certain I have. How could I not? Yeah. And shout out to the chat. Y'all are doing good stuff down there. Doing really good stuff. And yeah, that's true, Dominic. And you may, again, this is probably not, your comment's probably not directed at me. But I know when I come on here and say certain things, actual good people like Rob Cleveland, he's not perfect either, obviously, but he internalizes what I'm saying. And I'm like, well, Rob, I'm not actually talking about you, but I do that also. I tend to internalize. So yeah, you're right, Dominic. The ego programming, yapping, and all of that. And then, the way I would work with that is, well, and in fact, I kind of lost what I wanted to say, but shit. I'm looking forward to overcoming whatever this is with my short-term memory. And it's going to be less bad now that I'm off the cannabinoids, but it's still an issue either way. Fuck. Anyway, thought I had a riff on that. Guess I don't. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mitch. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mitch. And it's not my, I tend to psychoanalyze people. It's just a thing I do. I mean, Mitchell's free to just say, yeah, man, I get the pop psychology, but whatever. I mean, of course, nobody has to accept what I'm saying. And ultimately, for me, it's going to be all about, I learned a lot of that stuff, the psychobabble. A lot of that, the only reason I know it is because for me, I was in a situation where I knew that I was never going to be able to unfuck myself by going through the mental health system. So now I'm in the position of having to figure all that shit out for myself. Once I decide, well, I'm not going through the mental health system. And again, I think me and Mitchell are similar in that regard. I can just sort of pick a path in life. And if I'm projecting, that's fine. Maybe it doesn't apply to Mitchell at all, but I can just sort of pick a view or pick a path and just sort of commit to that and stick with it. It's like, okay, I'm fucking taking charge of my mental health, come what may, because I'm doing that by refusing to go through the mental health system. Well, if some other people have, I don't look down on them. I mean, part of me being able to do that is that the cult literally programmed my mind, and in spite of, I can go out and live in the streets, and I can still have proper behavior because of the way I was brainwashed, so that I never have to, I can get right on the edge of being 5150 and never get 5150. I can be right on the edge of getting arrested a bunch of different times and never actually get arrested. So of the times Mitchell's been arrested, think of how many times he's almost been arrested, right? Well, I've found a lot of value in not having a criminal record. Now, I don't necessarily assign any sort of meaning to whatever you know, whatever Mitchell's criminal record may be, or arrest record, he may have, who knows? I don't know. He may have never been convicted of anything, but the reality is just an arrest record is a record to some extent, right? So wherever that shows up. But yeah, it's to my advantage to be seen by this system as above reproach on paper in certain ways. And if Mitchell chooses not to recognize that, that's not my problem. Now, if Mitchell can be confused and say, well, I don't want to be friends with somebody who finds honor in that. Great, Mitchell, that's your choice. Great. I'm saying I would be your friend. And yeah, maybe it's Mitchell's chosen a path where he can't have friends who don't exhibit a minimum level of honor. And from his perspective, I'm below the level of honor. Guess what, Mitchell? That just means you probably don't get to have friends. Mitchell, you probably just don't get to have friends. So now we're back to the thing about Mitchell and his in going through certain things with the excessive emotionalism, because in part because he's not able to get his needs met on an ongoing basis, because based on his own code, which I'm not here to talk him out of, based on his refusal to compromise, and I'm not here to talk him into compromising, he's a victim of these things on some level. The fact that we, meaning the masses of humanity, won't bring themselves up to a minimum level of honorability. And guess what? Mitchell is right in those regards. If that is where he's coming from, guess what? He ain't wrong. Thanks for watching. Bye.